Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special little Sunday stream. Hi there, I am Jason Bulmahn. I am the Director of Game Design at Paizo, and today I thought I would take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of hype around Pathfinder Second Edition to join with all of you and talk about how to create a character. Now, I can't just do this by myself. I need someone to help me make a character. So I want to introduce a good friend of mine to the stream here, my good buddy, Dan. Hey there, Dan.
Hey, nope, nothing. We're good. Hang on. No, fine. Hi.
Dan, I need you to be
ya?
professional. We are doing a stream here.
We got this. We got this. Don't worry.
I'd like to say that we planned that, but I'm going to wager you were just in the middle of pouring, and that's just where we got.
I legitimately was holding the bottle for about 3 minutes.
Oh, all right. Yeah, just
happen.
like
This
he's
is gonna
going to start any second now.
Well, I couldn't hear you at all, too. I was like, trying to guess what was happening based off of what I was seeing.
No, that's perfectly fair. That's perfectly fair. Well, today, Dan, I thought we'd gather together and teach some folks how to make a character for Pathfinder Second Edition.
I'm in.
Now,
that sounds like fun.
Now you've done this a couple times, but you're not a pro. You wouldn't call yourself a pro.
I've actually made 2 Pathfinder 2E characters, so this will be my 3rd one.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's still not that many in the grand scheme of things.
No.
But yeah, today we're gonna walk through the process step by step and work with other folks and show the folks out there how to make a character. It's been kind of a wild week. There's a lot of new folks who are interested in playing. And yeah. I mean, it's been a little crazy, right?
Little crazy.
Yeah. So we've got a setup here for us to kind of talk about a character. So let's go ahead and hop over to the other screen here. So here we are. We're in a space, and what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the process of making a character from A to Z. And it's funny we use the alphabet because ancestry, background, and class are the first 3 things we're going to do. Now, making a character for Pathfinder Second Edition always starts with kind of thinking up a big concept, right? You need to envision your character, Dan. So I know you play hundreds of different character archetypes. It's like mask after mask after mask with you. It's
okay. Okay. I know exactly what you're getting at. I have a habit, true, of always being #Team Rogue. I can't help it.
Yeah.
That's my play style. It just fits how I like to play a character.
Okay.
Just works.
All right. So what you're saying here is that today we're going to make a rogue.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So that's kind of a first piece, right? The thing about Pathfinder is there's a lot of different ways you can approach character creation. The steps are always kind of the same, but that initial kind of how do you pick what character you want to play always kind of starts with, envisioning the character in some way. And you might do that with a group, talking about what needs you need at the table. You might do it based on just a concept. You might even just do it off a piece of art. That's like, this art is cool, I will do that. And to that end, we kind of chatted a little bit beforehand, just so that we had an idea what we were doing here. And I knew you were going to make a rogue. And I kind of talked to you about your ancestry too, right? What do you want to be other than just a rogue? And Dan, did you have any thoughts on that?
I think, because we were going through artwork and stuff like that. And for some reason, right off the bat, first thing that appealed to me was Goblin.
Yeah.
Also pretty iconic in the Pathfinder world. So I thought, let's do that. That sounds good.
So that is one thing I want to note, actually, for folks watching. Everything we're going to do here today, we're going to build just out of the core rulebook. Now, there's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of books. There's a lot of tools. There's lots of different things you can do when building a Pathfinder Second Edition character. But to keep things simple here today, because I think there's going to be a lot of new folks, we're just going to use stuff out of the Pathfinder core rulebook. We're just going to use a basic character sheet. We're not going to use any special tools. We're not going to use any builders. we're just going to build things using the core and what you get out of the core rulebook. So to that end, of course there's dwarves and elves and humans and gnomes and halflings, but Pathfinder also has goblins. So Dan, you want to play a goblin rogue?
Yes. Let's do that.
I went and I looked in the resources that we have that are up that folks can grab to use to represent characters, the community use illustrations, and I found a goblin rogue. So we're going to go with this illustration, and I'm going to have it pop in right above you there, Dan. There you are. That's you.
Perfect. I love it. The resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say that.
When I saw it, I was just like, Dan does often have a frog lizard on his head.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, as I said, we also got a character sheet here that we're going to be able to use, and I'm just going to walk through this step by step, and we're going to fill it out as we go. So, to start off, right, we know we've got a goblin rogue. Do you have any thoughts on a story for this character? You got anything you want to riff on? Any concept thing that'll help guide our decisions as we go along?
The one thing I want to try to do, is I actually want to make an interesting rogue character that is not hated by their family, or they hate their family, or their supposed friends cast them out when they were young. I want this little goblin fella to have, it was a great life. They grew up, they actually had all the education they might have needed. They got along with people. They were an affable young folk, and it was very much not something that is going to come back later and be like, oh, I'm going to rage now and hurt this thing just because it says it in my backstory. I want to do something that is, pretty free from trauma.
That's unusual for an adventurer backstory, right? Most of the time it's like, my town burned down, my family was killed, and a dragon ate my dog, right? It's some gigantic mountain of trauma that's like, and that's why I go in dungeons and steal stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost as if they're trying to pre-build an excuse for terrible behavior later. But you don't want to do that.
No.
All right. So we're gonna build a goblin rogue that had a well-rounded upbringing, and has decided to strike out to be an adventurer for a reason we don't know yet. We'll figure that out as we go. All right. So the first thing we got to do is we got to work on your ancestry, because as it's been mentioned, and for folks watching, there are three main pillars of making a character in Pathfinder Second Edition. You get to pick your ancestry, which represents kind of who you are, who your parents were, where you're from. Your background, which represents kind of how you grew up, and your class, which represents kind of what you were trained to become. Now, within each one of these steps, you're going to make a bunch of other decisions as well. So it might seem as simple as just picking your ancestry, background, and class, but within each one of those, you're going to be able to make a whole bunch of decisions that kind of customize your character and make it uniquely your own. So let's start. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the ancestry stuff. Now, this is the Pathfinder PDF, but I went through and cut out all the pages we don't need, just to make this simple and so that we don't have to do a whole bunch of page flipping. Because the book is big and can be intimidating, but I want to stress to folks, mostly a reference manual. So you're able to kind of jump to just the parts you need, and that's what we're going to do here today. This entire thing is 32 pages long and has all of the choices you get to make for this character out of a 600 and some odd page rulebook. So let's get started here and go straight down to Goblin. So here we start off with kind of the basics and the story of goblins, but what we want to jump to first here is some of the basic things that goblins get. So as you can see, goblins get 6 hit points. They're size small. They have a speed of 25 feet. Let's go ahead and pop over to the character sheet and start filling some things out. So ancestry is Goblin. Player name is Dan. We'll just get that down right. Ancestry here is Goblin. Came in very small. Hopefully, okay, that helped make it bigger. And we'll go ahead and put level 1 here as well. Hit points. Your max is currently only 6, but that number's going to go up as we do some more steps, because we got 6 from being a goblin. Your speed, 25. sheet. And yeah, that's what we got there. Now, the next thing we're going to do, Dan, is we need to pick your ability boosts. Now, there's two things you can do here. We recently kind of made an additional option. You can either take the ability boost and flaws listed here, which gives you a bonus to Dex, a bonus to Charisma, a free boost, which you can assign anywhere you want, and a wisdom flaw. So each one of these boosts and flaws is going to, the boosts are going to raise your score by 2, and the flaw is going to drop a score by 2. You can either take that arrangement, or you can just take any 2 boosts that you want, which means you don't get 3 boosts, you only get 2, but you also don't get a flaw. Which one would you like to do, Dan?
I'm going to get the 2 boosts and no flaw. I think that's the way that I want to go.
And no flaw. All right, great. Yeah. So let's hop back over to the character sheet. And as I said, each boost is going to give you a +2. Now, whenever you get a bunch of boosts together, it's important to note, you can't put them both in the same place. They have to go in different places. So, Dan, where do you want to put these boosts?
I would like to go Dex.
I am shocked by this decision.
I know.
I know you are thinking about Rogue, and rogues need that Dex.
It's scandalous, I know, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to go Con, actually.
Con. All right.
Yeah, only because I have a little backstory in my head, and I think that Con might play into the character from a purely building from an RP perspective. Maybe not. I'm not a min-maxer when it comes to building characters, as some of the people in chat know. I'm not really good at that. So
well, I mean, that's one of the great things though about Pathfinder Second Edition. This is one of the things I like to tell folks is that it's actually really hard to make a bad character. Almost all of the characters are perfectly good at whatever you design them to be perfectly good at. It's hard to make choices that at the end you're like, well, I'm gonna die, right?
Yeah.
So in this case, we filled out those 2. Now there's a few other things in here. You got some languages. You get Common and Goblin to start, and languages are right down here. Oh. Sorry, Common and Goblin. Sometimes these form fillable boxes start off really small. There we go.
Where did you get this, Jason? Where's this character sheet from?
This is the standard ink-friendly Pathfinder character sheet, and I found one where someone had filled in all of the form-fillable boxes.
Oh, okay.
You can grab the character sheet from Paizo.com. I'm not sure it comes with the form-fillable boxes. A lot of people have done these just as a note for those watching at home. There's like several different form-fillable ones. Some of them even do math for you, where you can type in things and it starts doing some of the math for you. It's really nice, but I don't think we have one of those on offer right now because the character sheet changed. All right, so we've got 2 languages in there. There are some traits we should mark down, Goblin and Humanoid. Those are not super relevant traits. Really, a lot of people sometimes get tripped up by traits. It's important to note that traits are primarily there so that other things know that they affect you. So when if somebody comes at you with a spear that kills goblins, it only kills characters that or things that have the goblin trait. You don't have to worry about them otherwise, generally speaking. And lastly, you get dark vision. Now, dark vision, everybody knows what that is. It means you can see in the dark.
Super handy.
Yeah. So we've gone and we've picked Goblin, and now comes that time where we get to make additional choices. Now, goblins have heritages. All of our ancestries have heritages, and a heritage is basically a different kind of goblin, right? Each heritage of goblin is a little different from the others. They all have some different abilities, some different things they're good at. All of them get this base stuff, but then the heritage gives you a little something else. And here in the core rulebook, we've got the Charhide Goblin. They have kind of thicker skin and are used to being around fire. You've got the Iron Gut Goblin, which they can basically eat just about anything and not have to worry about getting sick. You've got the Razor Tooth Goblin. Unsurprisingly, they've got a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth and can bite people. You've got the Snow Goblin that comes from the frigid mountains and northern lands. and they tend to be blue in color. And then you have the Unbreakable Goblin, which is just very hard to kill and very hardy. So Dan, which one of these sounds good to you?
Again, thinking with the backstory, I'm going to try to go with. I would think Unbreakable or maybe the Iron Gut. One of those two.
So let's look at them a little bit in depth then before we make our decision. So the Iron Gut Goblin basically allows you to get a bonus on saving throws against anything that would cause you to become sick, especially things that you eat. While sickened, you can still eat and drink things, which is a little bit of corner case rule that sometimes when you have the sickened condition, when you feel nauseous, you can't drink a potion, right? But Iron Gut Goblins can. They don't care. They don't get sick that easy. That's what they do. Now the Unbreakable Goblin gets more hit points. Instead of 6, you get 10, and whenever you take falling damage, you're kind of bouncy, so you only take half.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go Unbreakable then. That does sound a little bit closer to what I picture my character being.
Okay. So we're gonna go and add here Goblin, and we'll put Unbreakable right up there. And we're gonna go ahead and change your hit points from 6 to 10. Now the falling damage thing, we should note that the place that we would typically go is down here to the Ancestries, and we would just put half damage from falling. Just a good place to put it. Your heritage here is Unbreakable. A lot of folks look at our character sheet as a note and say, wow, there's an awful lot here. The thing that's good to note is that most of this is just places for you to make sure you've made all your choices later, right? Feat 8, Feature 9, Feat 10. These aren't things we have to worry about as a first level character. But we will go in and put some special stuff in here. We'll fill out class features and class feats and just make sure we're kind of filling in all the boxes as we go. But most of this stuff is either here so that you can do the math and do some simple calculations, or to chart your character all the way up through 20th level. You don't have to worry about having an extra sheet because there's so many things. It's all here. So we've made that choice now. The last thing we need to do, as in the Ancestry thing, you get one more choice, and that is all characters at first level get an Ancestry feat. The Ancestry feat is just another way that you can customize your character. Goblins have, well, frankly, a fair number of first level Ancestry feats to choose from. I'll go through them really briefly here just to give you a sense. Burn It means that your spells and alchemical items deal better fire damage. You're used to having fire around you. Charhide goblins love this one. City Scavenger means that you're really good at looking for value in junk and heaps of trash, and allows you to subsist in cities better. You can kind of live off the land in a city. Goblin Lore teaches you some of the things that goblins find valuable, makes you better at nature and stealth, and gives you a special lore skill called Goblin Lore, so you know about the history of goblins. Goblin Scuttle is an ability that says that whenever an ally moves next to you, you can kind of scuttle away from them, or move as well. Goblin Song lets you sing irritating songs that frustrate and anger your foes. Goblin Weapon Familiarity makes you good at all weapons that have goblin in the name. Junk Tinkerer lets you use crafting to make kind of junky items and weapons really easily. Rough Rider makes you good at riding various types of traditional goblin mounts, which allows you to like ride a special creature in Pathfinder called a goblin dog, or a wolf mount. Doesn't give you one, but it makes you better at riding them. And then Very Sneaky, which, as it turns out, makes you very sneaky.
Oh,
some of these are very descriptive.
Should have known that. Now that you say it, it makes so much sense, though. I get it.
Yeah. What it does is it allows you to move further whenever you take the sneak action, and you don't become observed in the right circumstances while sneaking. It just makes you better at sneaking in general. So which one of these sounds interesting to your goblin?
Well, I'm gonna say either the scuttle or very sneaky.
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe scuttle is
Scuttle.
where I'm leaning. Yeah.
Scuttle's really good for a rogue because it allows you to kind of maneuver around foes and get into a better position
That's what I'm
to
thinking.
attack. All
Yeah, I
right.
mean, because if anybody's played a rogue, it's all about positioning. Your chess piece
Yeah.
is super important there, and
Yeah.
so I was like, that might help a lot. So
Absolutely.
that's my thought.
So let's go back to the character sheet here, and we're going to scroll down to the Ancestry section, and in Feat first, we're just going to go ahead and put in Goblin Scuttle. So there we go. If we wanted to, we could go to the third sheet here, which is kind of filled with discretionary areas, right? You can fill in stuff about your beliefs and your dislikes and your attitude and do a little sketch. But you can also go down here and fill in actions and reactions so that later on during play, you can easily come reference. But not necessary for what we're doing here today. We'll just keep on rolling. So that's it. You've picked all your Ancestry choices for first level. There's nothing more to be done. So now that we're done with that, it's time to go to backgrounds. Now, backgrounds are really kind of one of the more narrative pieces of character creation, right? Because you're basically deciding kind of, this is how I grew up. This is what I was doing when I was young into my early years, and how much of those sorts of things kind of stuck with me to the now. Now there's a lot of these, and I mean, there's from acolytes and acrobats and barkeeps and detectives and charlatans and guards and herbalists and fortune tellers and hunters, and goes on, right? There's several pages of these. But Dan, I think the best thing for us to do to try and narrow in on a background for you is to kind of talk about what you envision for this character's early life. That'd be the best way for us to kind of get to figuring out what background works for.
Okay. So this is my thought. This is where I'm going with the character in my head. And I was trying to pick the other stuff based around what I'm already picturing and based off the artwork. So here's the thing. Happy childhood, not angry at all, not like hated, not shunned, none of that stuff.
Sure.
Got along great. Had a lot of time to do other like hobbies and things like that,
Okay.
Loved hunting, learned how to like be a hunter, all of that sort of thing. So I'm picturing out learning how to work with a party of hunters to get the game or whatever. Used to camping out for a couple of days at a time, could eat whatever they need to survive and all of that kind of thing, because maybe you don't get the hunt. But it's all about that kind of thing. And then at some point, and I don't know if this is because, so obviously I'm leaning towards hunter automatically just because of that. But then you showed me the artwork, and I saw that there's that cute little frog lizard thing just perched up on his head.
Yeah, he's got a frog friend.
One of the weekends they were setting aside, they were going to go hunting, and that was the prey they were hunting for. And he found it on his own, cornered and scared, and he basically hid it in his pack. And he was like, you know what? I think I'm done hunting now. I think I've done enough hunting. And basically that's now his like little friend that lives like with him, maybe not always on top of his head, because let's face it, it's pretty hard to blend in when you've got that just riding on top of a leather helmet. But I think that right there where we're seeing in the artwork is what made him be like, I'm good. I think I've done enough with this whole thing.
So Dan, you've talked about hunter. Hunter is certainly an option we can go down. I do want to say that hunter will work well, right? Hunter plays well with the rogue. It gives you some cool abilities and things that make sense for a rogue.
Okay.
I also want you to consider animal whisperer.
Okay.
Now, this you were being trained to be a hunter, but maybe somewhere deep down when you found that frog and looked into its eyes, you knew that you and that frog could get along.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I what's funny is I was going at it from the other side, but you basically, your background is saying exactly where my character ended up.
Yeah.
Where it's like, nope, that's what the character is now. Whereas mine is, it was this and now it's not anymore. Yeah, I like yours. Yours is more end result focused. I think that's much better.
So we can go either way on this, right? Because you can decide based kind of off, either facet of this, either you know, it's what I got trained to do, but I've abandoned that, or it's something I've kind of learned since as a result of that experience. I kind of like the latter.
I like the latter too. I like that basically my background is still the character I am today, no matter how long ago that thing happened.
Sure.
That's the more forming part of my background. That makes sense to me a lot.
All right. Well, I went in and quickly typed, and congrats, you are now an animal whisperer, and that's
Yay!
really big. So I'm going to go ahead and just change that to. Let's just go to animal. There we go.
I can't wait to get my own reality show on TLC. It's going to be amazing.
So we're going to go back to the form fillable character sheet here. We're going to go up into the background and we're going to add animal whisperer. And let's go here and take a look at what animal whisperer gives you. Now, it is going to give you 2 ability boosts. So right off the bat, you're getting 2 ability boosts. One of them has to be wisdom or charisma. The other one can go wherever you want.
Charisma and dex.
Charisma and dex. All right, so charisma and dex. So I've gone and updated both of those. Now, in addition to that, you get trained in the nature skill and a lore skill related to one terrain inhabited to animals that you like. So, were you out swamp hunting?
Well, at first I was thinking forest, but an animal like that probably does live in a swamp, I would imagine, right?
Yeah,
or,
so,
you know, that seems right. It's like a salamander thing, or maybe it's more deserty because it's a lizard. Don't those usually live in deserts?
Could be.
I think swamp is probably correct. I think swamp is probably right.
All right, so let's go back here and go down to the nature skill, and we're just going to mark you as trained. Right, that's all we're going to do right now. We don't have to worry about any of the math or anything like that. We're just going to mark you as trained. Now, in addition, you get a lore skill, and we're going to mark you as trained at that. And the lore skill, we're going to go in over here and write swamp. You have swamp lore.
Hell yeah.
So whenever you're in the swamp, you can make checks to be like, oh, don't eat that, toadstool, and hey, you probably don't want to walk in that bog.
Oh, friend, I think that's quicksand. My trained eyes have told me not to step in that.
Hey, friendo, my frog friend here says that you're going to die if you go in there.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you gain one last thing, which I think is key, which is the train animal skill feat. So we're going to go back to your form fillable character, and we're going to come down here to skill feats, and you'll notice there's spot for one from your background, and we're going to go ahead and put train animal right there. Now,
how does that work, Jason? What does that mean for me?
So the train animal skill feat lets you basically work with animals to get them to follow your commands. Now, there are classes in the game that allow you to do this as a class feature, and you get like powerful animal companions and things like that. But there is kind of a base level of this where you can just learn to work with animals, and they're not animal companions, but they are animal friends. So I'm going to go ahead and look it up here because I don't think I had this prepared, because honestly, it's a bit of a curveball.
Look, we had few notes, but even now we're off those notes.
We're already off.
Doesn't even matter.
As it turns out, that's how character creation goes. You have an idea, you get halfway through it, and you start going, you know what? I think I want to do something else because that option sounds cool. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab. I have a pocket edition of the core rulebook right here. Train animal. It says you spend time teaching an animal to do a certain action. You can either select a basic action that the animal already knows how to do, typically those in the command animal ability, or attempt to teach the animal a brand new basic action. After, you make some checks, you can, if you succeed, you can teach the animal that action. So you could, for example, teach your frog, your toad, to fetch. Right, you could basically train it to like, hey, go grab me that thing, or hey, go over there and stay. Right, so you could work with the toad to get it to follow basic commands, even though you don't have a class feature that allows you to do it. It allows you to kind of get a small animal friend that you don't have to invest your entire class in.
Okay, that's pretty cool, and it's like they can do basic stuff. It's not like I can have an attack. Train a killer lizard that lives on my head, and it's gonna fly in and do damage.
To get that, you would probably later want to pick up some abilities that allow you to actually turn it into a full animal companion. And there are ways to do that. We can talk about that here at the end. So that's your background. That's it. We're done with the background choices. So I'm going to scroll through these. because we're on to the final choice here, which is class.
Hell yeah.
And we know you're going rogue. I'm just going to go ahead and bring it in because there it is. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to go back up to the top and I'm going to fill in rogue. No surprises there at all. Now, with your rogue class, you get a whole bunch of stuff right off the get-go, right? So you are going to get a key ability score, which is going to be either Dex or an option from your rogue's racket. So I'm not going to pick that one just right this moment because your rogue's racket might give you a different option. So let's just hold on that.
Okay.
And instead, we're going to hop over here to hit points, and you're going to get 8 plus your constitution. Now, we don't know what your final constitution is just yet. So I'm just going to add 8 right now. And we're going to remember to do that later. So we've got the hit points in there. Now we start doing initial proficiencies. So this gets to the heart of your character. All Pathfinder characters are defined by proficiencies. And proficiencies work the same way no matter what statistic it's applied to. Proficiency comes in 5 different levels, from untrained, which basically means you don't know how to do that thing at all, trained, expert, master, or legend. Each one of these gives you a bigger and bigger bonus. But the moment you're trained, you get to add your level. And then each one of those markers gives you a +2. So trained is your level +2, expert is your level +4, master is your level +6, and legend is your level +8. Suffice to say, as a first level character, you're mostly going to be trained in stuff, and that's it. You might have 1 or 2 things you're an expert at, but not many. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to grab all of these proficiencies and move them over to your character sheet. So you're an expert in perception. So we're going to go over here and just mark expert. So we'll do trained and we'll do expert. That way we've got it all marked in. Then we go to saving throws. You are trained in fortitude, an expert in reflex and will. So trained in fortitude. You're not that great at fortitude, but reflex, you're not bad. And will, you're pretty good at as well. That's that. Then in skills here, we get trained in stealth, then trained in 1 or more skills determined by your rogue racket, then trained in a number of skills equal to 7 plus your intelligence. So we can only do a little bit of this part right now, but we're trained in stealth. So let's go ahead and mark that. Right down here. And then we'll skip the rest for now. And then in attacks, you're trained in simple weapons. You're trained in the rapier, sap, shortbow, and short sword. Those are all martial weapons, so they're kind of more advanced weapons, but rogues get training in them. And then you're trained in unarmed attacks. So we're going to go back here. You're trained in simple. You're not trained in martial, but you are trained in what I'm just going to write down as rogue weapons. I can write them all out, but that's what they are.
Yeah.
And then you're also trained in unarmed. Should that become relevant? Okay, so we've marked those. And then defenses, you're trained in light armor and unarmored defense. Here with armor. Trained. So you can wear light armor and you can be armored and be relatively defenseful. And then lastly, you're trained in your rogue class DC. This is rarely going to come up for a rogue, but it's important to know anyway. So we've just gone through and marked all of the basics here, but let's go and start making the choices, because again, you've made one choice. Now you get to make a few other choices inside. So we come down here, and the first thing we're going to want to do is look at the rogue advancement table. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff on here. Looking at this, the first thing it says is Ancestry and Background. This is something you get. You've already made those choices. This is just there to remind you. Initial proficiencies. That's what we just did. The next thing we get to do is pick your rogue racket. And this is really important because it defines a bunch of stuff. Now, rogues, Dan, as you well know, come in a couple different varieties. You can be a really sneaky rogue. You can be a really charming rogue. You can be kind of a bruiser rogue. There's all these different choices, and these are defined by your rogue's racket. What's their racket? And the core rulebook here has 3 rackets to choose from. And I do want to stress to everybody, folks, when you get outside this, you're going to get more rogue rackets. You're going to get more feats. You're going to get more choices. There's just a lot more options out there. But here we're going to keep it simple. So Ruffian is the one that is all about being strong and being more of a fighter. That's the Ruffian racket. Scoundrel is all about using fast talk and flattery and being charming. That's more charisma based. And then there's Thief. Thief is good at sneaking, hiding, and being dexterous. So those are kind of your options, Dan. Which one kind of appeals to you?
Well, I think in like flavor wise, I think it would be a Ruffian, only because he's definitely not a thief, but the benefits of being a thief are the things that I would imagine he would have. Again, from hunting and stuff, but let's go Ruffian. Let's do it. Let's make him rough and tumble. I'm in.
Okay. So, Ruffian, looking at Ruffian, let's see. You prefer to strong arm or intimidate others rather than rely on finesse or fancy tricks. You might be an enforcer for organized crime, a highway bandit, or a noble who bullies others and threatens them with their family's power. Or you might use your skills on the up and up in private security or as a guard in a city with the right temperament. You can use whatever tools you have at hand to get the job done. You can deal sneak attack damage with any simple weapon in addition to the weapons listed in the sneak attack class feature. So you can sneak attack with almost anything.
Wow.
And whenever you critically succeed at an attack roll using a simple weapon and the target has the flat-footed condition, you can apply the critical specialization effect for the weapon you're wielding. So the rogue is one of those classes that can get at the crit specialization effects really easily by being a rough. But you don't gain those benefits if the weapon has a very large die type. So it's best done with tiny little agile weapons. Mm-hmm. So let's get down here though, because here's some of the things that are critical. You are trained in intimidation and medium armor. So we're going to go ahead and give you intimidation. And we're going to mark you as trained in medium armor, which means you could wear heavier armor if you want, and rely a little less on dex. Now, in addition, when your armor proficiency goes up, it goes up in medium armor as well. Now, there's one other thing in here that's important, and that is you can take strength as your key ability score instead of dex. It's up to you.
I'm gonna. Oh boy, I'm gonna stick with dex. I'm gonna stick with dex. I'm gonna stick with what I know. Yeah.
Okay.
But I could have the choice if I wanted.
You could, and I should note that because you're not going thief, you're not going to be able to add dex to damage.
Oh.
That's something I know you're used to, because I know you've built a lot of thieves.
Yeah, but now I can't really read the text because all I can see is in Discord, and it's pretty small.
Yeah,
in the Ruffian, there was these are the negative parts of you, but if you wanted to play it on the up and up, this is what you would do. Did they have that in Thief, or is it just all you're a criminal? Have fun.
No, you could work in Thief. You could work as a consultant. You could work as someone testing people's defenses. Like you don't have to be stealing people's stuff. You could literally be helping others make sure that they don't get robbed. Right.
Okay. Yeah, let's go Thief then. You know what? I'm down. Let's do Thief.
All right, so you're gonna back off on Ruffian because you want that sweet dex to damage. That's fine.
I do want that dex to damage.
No, it happens.
And I don't see me ever getting anything more than leather armor anyway. Like that's just weird on a rogue.
Sure. So I'm gonna back off those things then. We'll leave that aside. I only marked 2 things there. And then in Thief, you get let's see, you are trained in thievery. No surprises there. And you're going to be able to add dex to damage on any weapon that has the finesse trait. That's kind of all you get with that. That's good, though.
Yeah,
right?
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
And the bonus automatically goes into dex, so we're already done. Okay, so that's your Rogue Racket. We're going to go back to the form fillable here and put Rogue Racket in here. Just going to put in Thief Racket. Just so that we know we've noted that we've made that choice. Okay. Right. So let's keep going. Next up, you get a little ability called Sneak Attack, Dan. I think you're pretty familiar with this.
Okay.
Now, sneak attack, Dan, means that when you catch someone unaware, you deal an extra d6 damage to them on a successful attack when using a finesse melee weapon or an agile or unarmed attack.
Say if they're maybe flat-footed to me, or if I'm flanking, or something like that.
Well, flanking causes them to be flat-footed to you, so that that would totally apply.
That is fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and add sneak attack in here. And we'll just go ahead and put 1d6 because it does go up over time. But that's what it is, right? And you also get an ability called surprise attack. We're just going to go and put this here after sneak attack. Two of these kind of go hand in hand. And what that means, Dan, is that on the first round of combat, if you roll deception or stealth for initiative, because you don't just have to roll perception for initiative in Pathfinder, creatures that have not acted are flat-footed to you. So as long as you go before them, you can get some sweet sneak attack on them.
Yeah. And as a rogue, it's very common to make sure to keep calling out to the GM. By the way, I'm sneaking right now as I'm moving around. And then when it's like roll for initiative, it's like, I told you I was sneaking, right?
Just so you know, we made that clear, right? Absolutely. All right. So now we've got two more choices here to make, because if we go back up to the class table, we did the Rogue's Racket, we did sneak attack, we've written down surprise attack. We get a rogue feat and a skill feat. So let's do the rogue feat first. Those are here in the rogue class. And, rogues, these are all the other high-level rogue abilities. But you don't get those yet. You do get first-level rogue feats. And you don't have a lot to choose from here. There's only 4 feats to choose from here. Obviously, there's more in other books and stuff, but there's 4 here to choose from. And we've got 4 feats here. I'm going to walk you through them real quick, and we can make a decision. Nimble Dodge lets you attempt to jump out of the way of an attack. That's basically what it does. It makes you a little harder to hit against one attack. Trap Finder makes you better at spotting traps. Twin Feint means that when you're wielding 2 melee weapons in different hands, the first strike can be used to throw the foe off guard, and then the second attack is they're flat-footed. So it's a good way for you to make someone flat-footed by yourself. And you'll notice these start to have these little symbols. This little symbol up here is the reaction symbol. What that means is that's an action you take generally between your turns. You get 1 reaction between each one of your turns. And then there's things that take actions, and that's the 2 action symbol here on this sheet. The 1 action symbol is floating around here somewhere, I'm sure. Maybe not. Maybe I don't have it on any of these sheets. Oh, well. It's like that symbol, but smaller.
Smaller. Is it on the character sheet? Sometimes it's listed on the top of the character sheet.
I think, there you go, Dan. It is right up there at the top. Well remembered. The 1 action symbol's up here on the top, 2, then 3. There's a free action symbol as well. That means it doesn't. So Twin Feint's pretty good. And then your next is an intimidation feat, and it basically allows you to call out a foe and menace them and attempt to demoralize them. Those are your 4 feat choices.
Yeah.
Kind of up to you, Dan. What do you think is going to work out best for this character?
Well, look, boy, I do love the idea of Twin Feint. Twin Feint is actually a very cool feat to have.
Sure.
But I feel like this fella would probably have Nimble Dodge. That's what I think they would probably go with.
Well, I'm also looking at your art, and you clearly have like a spear and a dagger.
So that's what I was thinking, and Twin Feint is a really good feat to have. Like it's really to the point where sometimes it feels like it's OP, where you're like this, like when it works out perfect, it is so good. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Boy, you're right though. The art says different. There's a reason.
Dan. It's your friendly goblin with his toad. It's up to you.
And also a dagger is really good with Twin Feint. So I learned that. So all right, yeah, you know what? Let's do it, Jason. Let's go.
Go Twin Feint. All right,
let's go.
All right, so Twin Feint is in there. We've got that all set. Let's get back here. Now you do get a skill feat as well. Let's go pick one of those. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, we actually need to, before we pick the skill feat, we're just going to hold this in reserve here for a sec.
Okay.
because you need to know what all of your skills are before we
Yeah.
pick a skill feat for you. Now, to pick all your skills, we also need to settle out your ability scores. So we've almost done that, though, on the upside. So I'm going to go back up here. We'll take a look at this. Your skills, we got the one skill from your rogue racket. You're going to get trained in a number of skills equal to 7 plus your intelligence. But we don't know what your intelligence is yet because we haven't settled it out. So there's one last step that needs to happen in your ability scores. We're almost there. But the one last step is that you get 4 free boosts. You can't put any of them, you can't put 2 of them in the same, but you can put 4 anywhere you want. So where do you want those 4 to go?
Well, okay, so we did stick with Dex, right? That was we stuck with that. Okay, so let's go 1 there.
Yeah, absolutely Dex. I mean, that's no surprise there at all.
Let's go another one to let's go 1 to con.
Con, okay. Get your con up to 14.
Yeah. Let's go 1 to strength and then 1 to charisma. How about that?
1 to strength and 1 to charisma. I like it. Okay. So with that, Dan, we have your final ability scores for your starting character. Now, generally speaking, all things being equal, assuming you're building most kind of average typical characters, this is kind of a normal looking array. You end up with like 118, some 14s, maybe a 16 and a 14, a 12, maybe a 10, maybe an 8, depending on what you did. So I'm going to go ahead and convert these into modifiers right away. Now, this is a simple thing. For every 2 you are above 10, it's +1. So you get a +1 to strength. Your dex modifier is +4. Con modifier is +2. Intelligence is no modifier, no penalty, no bonus. If you were an 8, you would have a -1. And then the charisma here is going to be a +2. So that tells us a lot of things. First of all, that con number is going to go into your hit points. We don't want to forget that. So your starting hit points is going to be 20. That's pretty good. We've already that is now final. And then we can do your skills now. So you do have an int of 10. You don't get any bonuses here. The rogue says you get 7 additional skills plus your intelligence modifier. Your intelligence modifier is 0. So let's pick some more skills for you. You're already trained in stealth and thievery. You cannot go to expert at first level. So basically you have to pick 7 skills to be trained in. Do you have any thoughts about what you want to pick?
Yeah, I do. The dex-based ones, probably right off the bat.
Right,
I mean,
so
that would just make sense.
Acrobatics?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then is
you already have the other 2.
Yeah, I already
have. You already have
okay.
stealth and thievery. But you also have a pretty decent charisma, so you could pick up charisma skills.
Yeah, so like diplomacy. So maybe intimidation. No, diplomacy for sure. Yeah, diplomacy? I want diplomacy.
Right. So we've picked 2 for you.
Okay.
You got 5 more.
5 more. Okay. Let's go survival, because he's a hunter type fellow. Used to training in that.
Survival. Yeah, you got some training, even though you in the end just decided to talk to your frog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's go athletics. That's a waste though, right? Because I don't remember what my
well, your strength is a +1. It's not going to be a bad athletics score. It's not a bad thing to have. It's good for jumping and swimming and that sort of stuff. So we'll give you athletics. All right. Yeah, that's 4. You have 3 more to go.
Okay.
Do you think this character is good at lying? Do you need deception?
That's what I see. I'm trying to I know I want to either do deception or intimidation, and I'm not sure which one makes more sense. I think.
Well, they're both charisma based.
I think maybe deception might make a little bit more sense, being a goblin.
Good at telling a couple fibs. Okay, sure.
Yeah,
we'll give you deception. All right, so that's 5. You got 2 more to go. There's medicine. There's occultism. There's performance, religion, society.
Let's go medicine.
Sure. Learn some swamp medicine.
Some swamp medicine. You know, there's healing herbs and fungi out there. Yeah. And then let's see the last one. Boy, doesn't make sense.
performance,
Performance.
religion.
Let's
You
go
want
performance. Yeah, I do want performance.
You learned how to do a little song and dance.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of my animal handling. Maybe
Yeah,
I
maybe.
find strays and do some like little performance and then get enough money to buy them food for the night or something.
All right, I like it. And goblin songs are obviously a thing, so you know.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yours aren't quite as irritating as someone with the Ancestry feat, but you know,
exactly.
they could still be good.
You gotta dream. Yeah. Maybe I'll get there someday.
All right, so we've picked all of your skills, which means we can now go and pick a skill feat. So you get one skill feat here, and I'm going to scroll through the rogue options here to get down to the skill feats. Now, of the skills that you just picked that you're trained in, is there any one of those skills that you think, you know what, I wish I had an extra little perk in that skill?
Probably stealth, I would imagine.
So let's go down here to stealth and we'll take a look. Now, this is just the table. We're just going to look at this because this is a whole chapter of feats. So we're going to look at this the list here and maybe pick one of these. And there's some details to it. You could look those up, but right now we just got to pick. And they give a little description of what they are. So under stealth, there's two that you can apply, that you can take. There's experienced smuggler, that says you're good at concealing items on your person. And then there's terrain stalker, which means that in certain types of terrain, you can sneak without even having to make a check.
I mean, we've built up this whole swamp thing already.
Yeah,
we might as well stick with that, right? I mean, that just makes more sense.
Sure. All right, so
let's do that. Yeah.
Let's take terrain stalker swamp. And there's not a skill feat location for this. Rogues get a bunch of extra skill feats at first level. So I'm just going to go down here into bonus skill feats and put in terrain, stalker, swamp. And I'm sure that'll get big the moment. Leave it. Yep.
There it is.
There it is. All right. So we got that in there. Right. All right. So believe it or not, Dan, we just finished all your rogue choices. That's it. Right? So
done.
We're now at the point where honestly we would probably go and start buying gear. Right?
Okay.
So let's do that here real quickly. First thing we want to do is buy you some armor. You can wear light armor here. And again, folks, I cut apart the rulebook. Some of these things are pages and pages apart, but they're pretty easy to find. If you look at, there's a nav bar on the side of the book that allows you to jump right to the chapter, and we're just jumping down to the equipment chapter. So here we have the armor list, Dan. There's padded armor, studded leather, or a chain shirt. Now, honestly, Dan, from your art here, it looks like you're wearing like ringlet armor of some sort. Yeah. You could call that studded leather. It's leather with some metal. That would probably work. Okay. Or you could just call it leather and be fine with it. It's an art choice. And you have 15 gold to spend, by the way. Okay,
well, then I was like, to get everything. It's only one, it's 1 GP. But I only have 15. Let's just go leather. I'm good with leather. That's fine.
Leather's actually going to work out better for you too, because if you'll notice when you're looking at your armors here, they give you an AC bonus, but they also have a dex cap that says you don't get more dex to your AC than this while wearing this armor, because it just kind of restricts your movement. And leather goes up to 4, which is what your dex is. So if you go to studded, you would only get 3, which is like the same thing, right? You're spending more money for no good reason. So we're going to go ahead and put your leather armor in here. So we're going to go back up here, and the leather armor, it says you either get your dex or the cap. Your dex is the cap. You are trained in this armor. It is going to give you a +1 because that's what it is. Your proficiency bonus in this is going to be a +3 because you are trained in wearing light armor, so you get your level, which is 1 +2, so a total of 3. So we can already, just by putting on this armor, we can figure out what your armor class is. So your starting armor class is going to be 18 because it's 10 plus your dex or the cap, which is in case they're the same, plus the proficiency, plus the item bonus from the armor. So let's go down to your gear here and write in worn items, leather armor. Now
Nice.
we could go in and fill in all the details about this and mark its check penalties and stuff, but you know, in the interest of brevity, we'll just move along.
Mm.
All right. So there are some things to note in here, right? It does come with a -1 check penalty on certain skills, just the dex and but your strength is high enough that you get to ignore. And it has a bulk of 1. We're not really going to worry too much about bulk. I highly doubt bulk is going to be a problem for you. But that's that. Let's jump to weapons. Now,
Yes, let's.
Now we can certainly stick with your art.
Yep.
And just buy stuff based on your art. Now, normally with a rogue, it'd be like, well, get that rapier going. Your art here doesn't have a rapier. That said, if you want to buy a rapier, I'll swallow my verisimilitude and allow you to have a rapier. Man. But you know,
I've never actually had any character that fought with a spear. I don't even know the characteristics of a spear. But I like it. So maybe I'm picturing he's got a spear, a dagger, and then he's got a short bow.
Yeah,
those, you know, because then the spear is good if you're used to hunting.
Sure.
Because then if you need, you can throw that thing.
Yeah.
Or it can be a hand-to-hand like melee thing if you need. So
yeah, and some folks have, you know, some folks might be a little confused about bulk. By the way, I kind of glossed over it there real quick. Bulk is an abstraction of weight and how kind of clumsy the item is. We don't want to count ounces and stuff like that here. Every item either has no bulk, in which case it's like, oh, you have a feather. We don't care about that. It may have bulk that just says L, which means it's a light item, and if you have 10 of those, they count as 1 bulk. And then there's items with bulk, and you can carry as much bulk as 5 plus your strength modifier without any penalty. Which is why I was like, yeah, we're not really gonna worry about bulk too much. So you as a rogue, if we recall, you get all those rogue weapons, and short sword and short bow are on that list. So we could give you a short sword. We could say that this isn't a dagger, this is a short sword, which I kind of like, because that gives you a better weapon to work with than just a dagger. And the spear is something you could just, you know, it's something that you're trained in using and you're good at using. It's not your ideal weapon, but you could have one on you just from your hunting days. And it's a good thrown weapon.
But I don't, it's not considered a rogue weapon though, right? Is that?
Well, you're not going to get much in the way of kind of rogue special abilities with it.
Okay.
Because it's not like a finesse weapon, and it you know, there's a bunch of things it's not going to be able to do.
Right.
But you could still have one, right?
We can still have one. It's fine.
One of those things about Pathfinder, right, is that sometimes you make choices that are just there to be representative of your character. It's not about being the best mechanically. It's about being representative. So, but I do think we want to make short sword your key weapon.
Okay.
If that works for you. I mean, we could go with something
definitely
else.
Works for me.
So let's go ahead and get a short sword in here. We'll cut back here. We're going to go into melee. Short sword. You are, of course, trained in this. So we're going to go ahead and give you the +3, because anything you're trained in at first level is going to be a +3. It's not going to have any item bonus. Now, it says strength here, but and it is a finesse weapon, which means you get to add your dex instead of your strength. So we're just going to go ahead and put your dex in here. And that means your attack bonus with this is going to be a +7 right out the gate.
Nice.
And it does D6 damage. And because you're a rogue, you get to add dex to damage instead of strength.
Nice.
Indeed. And it is a piercing or slashing weapon. We're going to go ahead and mark both those. And we're not going to worry too much. We'll go ahead and put agile and there. It has one other. A versatile, but I marked that the other. Okay, so there's your short sword. That cost you another 9 silver. So you've spent 2 gold, 9 silver at this point. Still got plenty to spare. Let's go ahead and give you a spear. That's 1 silver, so that'll take you up to a nice gold. You can get the spear in here. And this one you're trained in as well, +3. But this one has to rely on your strength, so it's only a +1. That's only going to be a +4. The damage die on the spear is going to be a D6 piercing, and it's plus strength. over here, we'll put thrown 20. Which means when you throw it, it has a range increment of 20.
Right.
So that puts you up to 3 gold spent. And Dan, you talked about maybe having a bow.
A short bow.
Yeah, let's get you go ahead and get you a short bow. Short bow's down here. It's another 3 gold, so that's going to take you up to 6 gold spent. Okay. We're going to go ahead and go down here to the ranged and put in short bow. And again, you're trained in it, so you're +3. This gets to add your dex, so with the short bow, you're a +7. Damage dice on this is going to be 1d6. You do not get to add your strength, you do not get to add your strength or dex to this. Right. But later you could get a composite short bow when you have the money that'll start to allow you to add some strength to it. So right now it's going to be nothing. Piercing.
Is it a D? Nope, never mind. I got it. Yep.
Yeah, it's a D6. And then it does have deadly D10, which means on a crit you get to roll a D10 and add that to it.
Okay. Oh, that might be what I'm thinking. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we've picked all your weapons. We've picked your armor. Now, this would be the point where we would go and pick all of your individual equipment as well. But there's an awful lot here. And for the brevity of this stream, I think what we'll do is we'll just pick one of the handy-dandy equipment kits that exists on this page. There's a rogue kit in here that includes your leather armor, that includes a dagger and a rapier. We could buy something like this and get what we need. We could also just go back here and buy an adventurer's kit and like thieves' tools, because there is some redundancy in that kit from below. So let's do that. Let's get you the adventurer's pack. That's 15. And to keep things simple, I'm just going to come down here and write other items. I'm just going to write adventurer's pack. Is there anything else, like gear-wise, that you think is super important to your character? You got a toad.
Yeah,
you don't have to buy that.
I don't. Yeah, no, that came free of charge. That was just I bought that with life lessons, if you know what I mean, Jason.
That's right.
I think that the thieves' tools, and then maybe a spare set, and then the adventurer's pack has got the bulk of like the sundries things that I might need, but I don't need to worry about.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely get you thieves' tools, because that's something you're gonna want to be having readied.
Yeah.
That costs 3 gold, so you've already spent like over 10 gold now.
Yeah.
So you could go through here and pick up a whole bunch of extra stuff. Like you could get a pipe, and you could get a special hat to wear your frog, and stuff like that, right? I mean,
a little pedestal hat.
Yeah, sure. I think we would just call that some explorer's clothing.
Yeah, exactly.
There is not specific. I don't want to mislead people. There is not specifically a frog hat in here.
There's not a frog hat. Okay. All right.
But yeah, we could also make sure to give you some food, right? There are
like rations and things.
Yeah, there's food in here. There it is. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we won't dwell on this too much. But you can go in and fill all these things out and add all this. Now, at this point in time, you're basically done making decisions. You've built a rogue character. You've got, a whole bunch of things that you can now fill out. So this would be the point that in character creation where we would go in and finish the character. And usually what that involves is going through and just doing some math. Now, we've already done your ability scores. Armor's done. Hit points all set. Then we would get to saving throws. Now, we just marked your saving throws earlier. Again, whenever you're trained at something, it's going to be a +3. But you actually have some saving throws that you're an expert at. So that's going to be your level +4. So those are going to be +5. And at this point in time, we would come and say, hey, you don't have a wisdom bonus. Dex is a +4. Con is a +2. And we could go in and say, well, your final fortitude bonus is a +5. Your reflex bonus is a 9. You're almost never going to fail a reflex save. And then your will save is...
Never say never. I'm good
just
at that.
Well, your will save is going to be a +5 as well. We could also go in here and figure out class DC and things like that. I don't think this is something that's ever going to come up for you. We've already done all your attacks. You could go in here and do the same thing for your skills, right? You know, every skill that you're trained in is going to be a +3. And you're going to get your dex bonus and fill these out. I don't think we're going to go through and do all of them. This is just because there's a bunch here, but the process is the same. All you have to do is go through, add your proficiency, add your ability score that's now set, and do all of this other stuff is done, Dan. This character is basically created. Now, rogues are one of the simpler classes you can build in Pathfinder, in that they don't have spells, and they don't have like alchemical items they need to worry about, and all these other things that exist in some of the other classes. Now, those might seem intimidating at first, but in most cases, they're just as simple as going to the spells chapter and picking a handful of spells to put on your list. They otherwise function just like every other choice you make. This is the spell sheet. This has, you might be trained in your spell attack rolls and trained in your DCs. The process is the same for all of the other things that we were proficient in before. And then you would just go into the rulebook and go to the spell list, and this is later in the book again, and pick yourself a handful of cantrips and pick a couple first level spells based on what tradition of spellcaster you are, and what class you are that gives you access to them. So that's kind of it. You're kind of ready to go. After you've filled out a couple statistics, maybe read up on a couple of your abilities, you're almost basically done. You need to pick out your size is small. Dan, do you have any idea what you want your alignment of this character to be?
Yeah, let's go chaotic good.
Chaotic
standard
good. I like it.
Rogue goblin.
I like it. We might even get in here and pick a deity. That is a thing that happens in Golarion, right? The core rulebook comes with all of your Golarion deities, and you could certainly pick one of these. We won't go through it right now. You could do so anytime you want. And Dan, I want the last thing for you for this character.
Yeah.
What's the character's name?
Oh no, I honestly was not even thinking a name.
That's why I didn't ask you before the stream, because I wanted to put you on the spot.
Okay, all right. Let's see. How about and I've never played a goblin necessarily before, like an official like Pathfinder goblin.
Yeah.
My memory of the lore is that they like to find shiny, cool things and be like, "That's my name now." Is that right, or am I wrong on that?
They can. They certainly can. But some of them have like names like Chuffy or
All right. Well, here's the thing, because you put me on the spot, and because I know my guy grew up in the swamps and like was entranced by things that were in the swamp. His name is Psilocybin, and he's named after the mushrooms because he thinks they were amazing.
I don't know if I spelled that right, but we'll go with that. Your name is Psilocybin.
Well, that's perfect because he actually goes by Silo. Like that. Like his official name is one thing, but he goes by Silo.
We'll just leave it as Silo. Okay. And Dan, what's the frog's name?
The frog's name is the frog's name is that's
more ostentatious the better.
Okay. His name is Lord von Leggiesworth.
Lord von
Leggiesworth of Hop Vale.
Of Hop Vale.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Hop Vale is the name of the swamp where you found him.
That's exactly it. Yes, I did not just make that up off the top of my head. That's exactly where he's from. So yes.
Is he the first of his name?
Well, the second.
The second. All right, the second.
First, yeah. The first was the one that set him on his path. He didn't live very long, sadly, but he went and got another one really quickly. It's okay.
It's fine. No one needs to know. So, honestly, that's it. Your character's kind of ready to go. You would maybe want to sit down and work out a backstory and chat with the other players about what they're playing. But honestly, you've made a character here that's ready to go, ready to jump out into the world and experience their own adventures. So Dan, I'm going to go ahead and take us back to our start screen here.
Yes.
Dan, That's it. That's the entire process from beginning to end. And, we had a lot of fun here. So this took, a little over an hour. But honestly, I think, once you become proficient in this, once you know what you're looking at, you can just fly through these. I can make a character in 10 minutes these days. But I do think we made a character here that's fun and engaging. And Dan, I really want to thank you for coming on and helping me create this character here today. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man.
And thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it. This was a blast. I love rolling up characters. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I like to just roll up characters sometimes where you're like, let's see what this would look like. So this is great.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. So thank you. And thank you everybody for watching.